Hey guys, welcome back to VGU Plays Dark Souls 2 with me, WXProtocols from VideoGamesUncovered.com and Jeff, also known as the Jeff Mage. So now we're back in the Forest of the Fallen Giants and we're going to take this route over here to get an awesome weapon. Now if you don't know about this weapon, seriously, where have you been? I think everyone knows about this weapon by now. But effectively, you go across here, and you go down that mine over there, and we're going to pick up something pretty darn sweet. Don't know if Jeff is ever going to use it because, well, Jeff is obviously the Jeff Mage, but who knows, maybe down the line Jeff might have a second idea as to what build to go with. So you just got a couple of enemies over here, you got to watch out for a guy that pops up behind you. I'm actually picking up the enemy's armor here as well, which I like to check out the stats on. Not as good stats wise, but later on I might just have a cosplay session, if you know what I mean. Jump over here, you get another sweet item over here, a human effigy, very very handy. Like, I understand many people are saying the human effigies are rare to come by. They're rare to come by early on. Later on you're going to start picking them up left, right and centre. As you may know, I have a second character going at the same time as Jeff, just to do stuff behind the scenes and play the game casually. And I have so many human effigies, I'm not even using them. But yet again, I am quite far into the game. I'm nowhere near completion, don't get me wrong, I've still got a ton of bosses to go through. And that was another death. Yep, the deaths have returned. Oh man, yeah, that was pretty terrible. Because effectively I was just trying to shoot them down, but I accidentally pressed the wrong button and I fell off the scaffolding. Right. I'm going to get back to where I was, and we'll continue from there. And we're back. So, I've just fast forwarded through the enemies we've already seen. There are a few enemies down here if you're coming down this way. Really easy to take down though, if you are a mage or if you have range capabilities. These guys will not be hard at all to take down. Then you've got a few other guys over there. They're just easy to deal with as well. And, well, that was easy. Well, one thing to note as well, if you are coming for this weapon, when you come down here, and you go down the mine to your left, which is the more brightly lit mine, this is another hole that I'm going to actually go down a little bit later on in a future recording session. But when you go down here, there are going to be two enemies that you can't directly see that are going to come up behind you. And those two enemies are going to have swords and boards, so do be very careful and do be ready for them. Now as you can see in this mine, there is a salamander type enemy just throwing gigantic fireballs in your face. You can damage it when you're a mage from quite a good distance away, and quite a good distance away as well if you have a bow. Sadly, I'm not going to fight it just yet. I want to fight it at some point because I'm just curious as to what it drops. If it drops anything, or if it opens up a shortcut to a new area. I'm genuinely interested. But basically what you got to do is, you got to kite it, wait for it to use its fires, open up this gate, and as soon as you open up this gate, roll in. Sometimes the enemy will be spitting fire as you open the gate, other times it won't. If you are standing on the other side of the gate, it will reduce some of the damage, but it won't reduce... Well, if you're at the similar level that I am and have the similar armor that I am, it will probably take off a good half of your health. And yeah, that's another reason why I didn't want to take that thing on just yet. That fireball was coming straight to my face and I didn't even know it could aim that far, so I've got to be pretty darn careful. But now that we have our fire longsword, which is one of the best swords you can get this early on in the game, I personally prefer the lightning sword because of the stats, but the fire longsword is also really fantastic against a future boss fight. Or mostly skeleton enemies, or skeletal enemies should I say. Fire does a seemingly good amount of damage there. But I'm going to loop around, going to get back to the bonfire, and we'll continue from there. Now before we take on the main route, we're actually going to take this route down, just to see if we can't get ourselves some handy dandy items before moving on basically towards where our first boss is going to be. All you want to do here, you want to kite over this halberd guy, easily take him out. The halberd guys are a little bit tricky in some of their movesets, but well, they're not that. They're not incredibly difficult, let's put it that way, but they can be tricky in some cases, depending on where you're at. Like if you're trapped in a corner, they are basically powerhouses. These two-handed sword guys, no trouble whatsoever, you shouldn't have a big problem. But if this is what I remember, yeah, this is going to be a pretty dumb moment on my part. So this guy down here is faking death, so obviously you wanna aggro him and you wanna kill him. Now I was stupid here. I kept on going towards him and I keep on forgetting to roll or use any healing items, and I died yet again. Fantastic. So see you in a moment. Hallelujah, finally defeat that guy. Ugh. That was painful on my part, but you get a soul of an undead soldier, so it's absolutely fine. Absolutely worth it as well. One thing I tend to do with these souls of undead soldiers, or the souls that, when you consume them, give you a certain amount of souls, I tend to keep them for when I need that little bit to level up. Or basically, I kind of leave them until later. I don't like to use them early on, because early on I believe you can get quite a nice amount of souls just by defeating the enemies that you normally go against. Especially if you're dying as much as I do, let's put it that way. Of course, many people play the game a different way. In some cases that kind of hinders my level progression, maybe even hinders out my upgrading progression as well in some cases. But I mostly just use those items later on when like you're hitting the big soul requirements and you're only just out of hitting them. Or if you need just enough souls to purchase certain spells or certain items at a point in the game. I think at the moment I'm kind of saving these up until I find a merchant that sells some really good spells, and I'm probably just going to go ham on getting all those spells. So over here you can jump off of that tree branch over there, and then you have these guys to deal with. This was a little bit idiotic on my part, because as you can see there's an archer in front of you to the left and an archer behind you to the right. And I was being hit by both of them, being friggin' stupid. And what happens? Take an Estus and take a friggin' arrow to the knee. Oh. 3 more deaths added to the death toll. Fantastic. We're not getting anywhere anytime soon. But man, I really want to get this item that we are going to be getting, because it's a key item. Literally, because it's a key. And it does lead towards another Estus Far Shard. So it's kind of a big deal. I'll see you in a moment. And we're back, and as you can see, I've changed around my gear a little bit. Not the best gear in the world. It actually is worse for my stats. Apart from the helmet gives some quite nice stats in different areas in comparison to the other helmet I've been going around with. So it's okay. But I just thought to myself, go on, let's cosplay a little bit. Why not? Let's cosplay Random Grunt Mixed Up Helmet Guy, number 5. That's the cosplay name that I'm going with. So this is the little route you can take if you fall into the little hut underneath the tree branch, which I actually did. When you fall in there, there's an item and I do believe a two-handed sword guy. So do be careful when you do land in there. Then you have to roll out, you take a little bit of fall damage. There's a guy right next to the ladder that's firing arrows at you, which is easy to take on. And then effectively you can come up this way and take out the enemies. I actually prefer going this way if I'm just doing enemy kills. I like going the other way if I'm specifically just running towards this location and just basically aiming to get this item that we're heading towards. But before we go into that obvious cave, we're going to climb up here and loop round yet again. Now, this is also key to know that this is your only way back from that cave area. So do not think there is another way, because there isn't. Well, there isn't one that I've found anyway that's safe. I think the only other way that I found was falling to my death, which is never a good option, especially if you have a good amount of souls on you. So as you can see here, we've now looped around full circle. We're going to jump over these. The reason why I went up there in the first place was just to check if any items were up there, and just to check if anything dropped. Yeah, as you come through this cave, be careful of that boulder the first time through. It will never appear ever again after your first time coming here, but just keep an eye out for it. Now that's just me riposting for no reason whatsoever. You get another human effigy, very, very handy. And as you go up here, you'll see some corpses of dead bodies. This should also remind you that if you do go into a bonfire, I believe there's only one enemy that respawns in this area, so there's nothing to really worry about. And this is the guy we're after. So this guy opens up a house in Majula. And this guy's house is amazing. And when I say amazing, it's pretty darn amazing, because in this house he has a map to the world, which we'll see a little bit later, and he'll also be holding an Estus Flask shard and another really important item. Basically, you want to get this early on so that you can get it, but the Estus Flask shard is guarded by a specifically strong enemy, which we'll get to later on VGU Plays Dark Souls 2. I'll see you on the other side.